Hello and greetings, everyone. It's GleeCon back at you with another episode of Lore of Warcraft. On our last episode, we wrapped up Teldrassil in World of Warcraft Classic with a Night Elf Druid, and all that's left is to explore Darnassus with that character. We did have to camp something at the end, but I'll talk about that when we get to that episode. It was a successful camp, sort of. We've also been reading the Lands of Mystery source material. We're getting close. We're about 3/4 of the way through the book, but things are going to start chugging along for a little bit now. We finished off the races with the Nerubians last time, and stay a while and listen. We're going to completely cover all of Chapter 7, which are 3 standalone adventures. So we're going to read all 3 because none of these are from the perspective of Bran Bronzebeard. We're just going to kind of talk about what some of these adventures are. The first one is called Off to the Races. So, it says this one takes place in the Shimmering Flats, which is a place in the Thousand Eagles. This is going to Thousand Needles, and it says, let's just jump right to the adventure synopsis. It said this should be a character's and player's first encounter with the Mirage Raceway. They discover the Shimmering Flats, and they're accosted by goblins and gnomes, and they have to basically do some races and stuff. So this one is not a fighting adventure. We're going to read kind of some of these flavored text boxes. The white sands of the desert seem to stretch on and on as far as the eye can see. To the east and west, barely visible in the oppressive haze, the cliffs that once enclosed an ancient sea are fuzzy gray walls barely noticeable against the impossibly dark blue sky. You begin to wonder if ice-cold water isn't the most wonderful precious liquid on the face of Azeroth. Then, it says roll some dice. Such and such a character notices something glimmering in the sands. It's not a rock, it's something metallic. The sands of the flats are no longer endless. Ahead you can see the faint outline of buildings in the distance and black smoke rising onto the horizon from multiple sources. What's more, you can see a long line carved out of the desert, a road of some sort stretching out as far as you can see. There seem to be flags along the side of this path, all of them bright and gaily colored. Also, you notice ahead of you, so they're like rainbow flags. A set of footprints in the sand, or maybe multiple sets of footprints. It's hard to say. They seem to be coming from the direction of the road. Says there's an expansion point because you can dig some things out of there. Or if you want to have a fight between goblins and gnomes, you could. Finally, you reach the small town you spotted on the horizon. A road carved out of the desert splits the place in two. The buildings on one side are squat and angular, clearly of goblin manufacture, while those on the opposite side are round and bulbous like those preferred by gnomes. Both sides have dozens of larger structures made of iron with smoke and horrendously loud banging noises emanating from them. The road you've been following cuts straight through town. At the center, hanging overhead, is a large banner with a unique white and black alternating pattern. The words start and finish are emblazoned across its surface in the common tongue. Nearby, a series of empty bleachers oversees the flagged area. Beyond this, a single ordinary-looking structure awaits. Its front doors open invitingly, and a sign across the front says Mirage Raceway Inn. Here's a little gnomish mage. We could break into a gnome lab and defeating a guardian construct that defends the fuel. Okay. Also, you could have some issues happen where you need to have some conversation checks if anyone spots them. So the encounters here are, there is a high octane goblin rocket fuel encounter where I'm guessing they have to try to procure some. This is, I don't even know what race that's supposed to be, maybe a goblin. Start signaling the race. There's uncracked scarab shells. We could require them to fight Dunmal ogres or have herbalists or track down an herbalist. They need some volatile rum. So basically the campaign or this adventure is procuring the different things needed for the race. Super phlogiston mixture recipe. Okay, the procurement of that. It's possible someone sees through the person who you're trying to get it from disguise or spots a hidden switch on a squirrel. So it's some kind of machinery. And then he dashes around, drinks potion of invisibility, and hides to escape. You could let him follow through. I'm guessing he's going to try to sabotage something. And then there's Daisy's dilemma. Oh, so this is a human barmaid. That is her. She's the race starter girl. You could have to help her at some point. So basically just various things. There's a sabotage in here. There's a race going on. And it says presumably they employ stealth or covert methods to approach the vehicle, make the modification. Basically, I guess we're going to rig the race. And to conclude the adventures, there's some things that happen. You could be a good friend to one of the sides, and you could get a recurring character out of any of the characters. Here are the various races. I guess you want the gnomes to win? I don't know. It's a high-low kind of thing. Low if you want goblins, high if you want gnomes. The second of the 3 adventures is called Ghost Ship. This is an 11th level, so kind of a mid-level adventure. Ship ahoy, shouts the sailor from the crow's nest. It says crow's next, but gesturing toward the bow. After a few minutes, an object resolves out of the glare. It looks to be a ship, but a small one. As it comes closer, it is apparent that the ship is not a ship at all, but a rowboat, a life raft. Small figures within wave their arms, swing white flags, and call out in indiscernible high-pitched voices. Finally, the raft pulls up alongside you. 6 goblins stand within, staring up as the crewmen toss a rope ladder down the side. Thanks, thank you, the goblins chatter as they scramble up the ladder. Soon they're all on deck breathing heavily, sweat shining on their bald green heads. So, this is an adventure sailing through the South Seas. We have to return to the ship, clear it of murlocs, and kill or recapture Dak Maul. So you possibly want to rescue the yacht. There is also a storm that's going to break out during the middle of this adventure. So this is a high seas adventure against murlocs. I'm going to read this flavor text. I'll tell you what happened, says one goblin. I'm Casmo, by the way. Pleased to meet ya. He thrusts out an arm. Thanks for saving me and my mates. We may not look it now, but a couple hours ago we were members of the finest, most important crew in all the South Seas. Nods and murmurs of assent come from the rest of the goblins. We were on board the fearsome yacht. Heard of it? Nah, I guess not. Well, the fearsome yacht is a prison ship. We were transporting a dangerous prisoner to Kultiris, but murlocs attacked us. The damn thing seems especially tough for murlocs, and they took us by surprise, so there wasn't much we could do, though we fought like demons. More nods and shouts. Anyway, the yacht ran into a coral reef during the fight, tore a big hole in it, and the murlocs were everywhere. He jerks a thumb at his companions, managed to escape. Everyone else is probably dead by now. Look, the prisoner we were carrying, he was an orc. He says he's a mage, but he's not. He's a demon worshiper, a warlock, and a powerful one. He was making trouble on Kazan. If he escapes, he'll make trouble somewhere else. I don't think the fearsome yacht is sunk yet. She's pretty tough. You look pretty tough, too. You want to do a favor for undermining Azeroth, head over to the yacht and kill or recapture the orc, if he's still there. If you can salvage the ship, too, I'm sure the Trade Coalition will be grateful. Nods from the other goblins. So we get some general features of the yacht itself. A 3-level yacht. Here's the map of it. Your ship alters course to the north. After an hour or so, the crew member in the crow's nest shouts, "Ship ahoy!" At the same time, clouds roll over the sun. Fat drops of rain patter on your ship and the goblins' open umbrellas. Soon, through the increasing rain, you can make out a shape ahead, which must be the fearsome yacht. It is tilted forward, its bow in the water at a 10 or 15 degree angle. As your ship approaches, the rain picks up, it drums on the deck and hisses into the sea. It raises mist on the ocean's surface and obscures the yacht. As you approach still closer, you can make out details on the prison ship. The fearsome yacht looks to be a bizarre cross between goblin technology and traditional shipbuilding. It is constructed primarily of wood, but metal armor plates are bolted onto its sides in various places. 2 masts, trailing tattered sails and waving ropes, stand from its deck, and behind them is an enormous smokestack. 2 great water wheels, painted a garish red, are attached to the ship's stern. Cannons poke out holes along the side. Figures move about on the deck. There are lurching gait and gurgling cries betraying them as murlocs. Casmo grins. Good thing they can't use those cannons, or we'd be in deep proto droppings. So, you will approach the fearsome yacht. Let's see, it says you can see that they can get as close as they want, basically, and it's possible the murlocs could just abandon ship and try to come get you. There are some encounters on the main deck of the ship. They're going to have to deal with whatever this says here. Thunder booms overhead and rain pounds the decks. The dark storm clouds have turned daylight into evening, and lightning illuminates the fearsome yacht's deck in startling flashes. Crates, barrels, and other refuse litters the scene. Bodies of goblins, murlocs, and a few other races lie where they fell in a recent battle. surrounded by blood that stains the deck and mixes with the rain. Toppled cannons and cannonballs lie about. Ropes and scraps of sail hang from the masts. Murlocs, almost a dozen of them, stalk the deck. Their skin and large eyes gleam in the lightning flashes. They gurgle their alien war cries as they charge. So you're going to have a slippery, tossing and turning kind of stormy battle against Murlocs on the deck of a ship. Talks about the effects of the storm. You're fighting the wide grin Murlocs. There are 8 of them, plus a shaman. And it talks about the tactics they use. On the second area is the Murloc Refuge. More dead Murlocs and goblins lie about this large room. Tables and chairs are overturned or smashed. A door on the east wall has semi-intact tables and chairs piled in front of it. From beyond a metal door on the west wall comes bangs and wheezes. Rain drums on the deck above you and mists the stairs. In the distance, thunder growls. There are 6 more Murlocs down here. And there is some treasure, just a tiny little bit of demon skull. This room is a technological insanity. The walls are dark and rusty metal. A giant mechanism dominates the room, taking up its entirety except for a narrow walkway around the bulky device. Stopped pistons protrude from the device in various stages of action. Wheels, levers, and buttons of various colors appear at all angles and heights. Metal stepladders toppled near the door imply how the goblins managed to reach some of these. The device emits a dangerous whistling, and needles on several displays all point to the red. Steam blasts from the numerous chinks and holes and shoots randomly from other areas. The room is stiflingly hot. A closed furnace door is at the front of the device. A shovel and a pile of coal spilled toward the bow stand nearby. And finally, the final deck is the boiler room. So it says merely standing in this room is dangerous. You take steam damage. And it's just basically treated as a trap. You can repair it to make your way through. And finally, in the fourth area, actually, is this final? I don't know, is Umber's Hall. Maybe that's this guy. He is a Tauren rune master that is fell-sworn. So he's probably like the partner of the warlock that we're going after. A door in the wall bangs open and a large shape steps forth. It is a Tauren, but enormous and misshapen. The creature is forced to stoop to maneuver through the corridor, and his massive bulk is like a wall. Patches of red, scaly skin mark his black furred hide. His black horns curve downward, and they are long and twisted, fading to red at their tips. Runes glitter across his body. "You creatures are not Murlocs," his nostrils flare. "Good! I'm tired of killing those weak-skulled frogs." He roars and charges. They give you some tactics. And then there's the No Murloc land, Area 5. So if we look back at the map, 4 and 5, this is actually all still on the second deck. So 2, that was where the Murloc's Refuge. That's the steam trap. This is where the Tauren is. And this is where where we're about to go in the No Murloc land. There is a wide grin Murloc, a single sentry, and another Murloc shaman. Dead Murlocs. Oh, this is in the final part in Ipwum's lair, so probably like their leader. Dead Murlocs lie in grotesque poses in this hall, their bones broken and heads smashed in. The ceiling is battered and defaced with dents and holes. No goblin weapon did this. After defeating it, you can see that this small room has seen combat. The pieces of several Murlocs are scattered across the floor, stuck to the walls. Small craters dot the floor, and scorch marks, both circular and linear, mar all surfaces. A hole in the floor marks where a staircase might once have been. On the opposite wall, a wooden door hangs on one hinge. This is probably where our warlock, as you can see right there, has escaped to the final lowest deck. Lower level is the first part, where you will find Drakmal, the male orc warlock, and he has a companion as well, Umber Goonrock, and Istafine, an invisible person. So if we talk about their tactics, you're basically going to have to come fight them. They both fight to the death. Who's Umber Goonrock? That's him, so he will come back maybe to help him fight. And the final area is the closet. If he has to flee, this is where Umber hides. This chamber must have been the captain's room, now defaced. Rich wood paneling is scored with black marks. Daggers jut from the walls in the faces of oiled portraits. Large portholes look down onto the sea, calm but for the rain pouring straight down. Lightning flashes. The room is partially submerged. Seawater rises at the far end. A desk, a couple chairs, wooden debris, and a face-down goblin in rich clothing bob on the surface. It's probably the dead captain. The hallway here is scorched in places, the wood withered and the metal planks peeled away and lying, discarded and misshapen on the floor. The burned and chopped husks of goblins and murlocs lie strewn about. The place smells like a barbecue in which someone has left the meat on the grill for too long. Barred jail cells, empty and open, line both sides of the corridor. The ceiling lanterns have fallen from their chains and lie on the floor with the rest of the refuse. Instead of their normal yellow light, they shed a green-purple glow that's painful to the eyes. Okay, and then you can conclude, depending on what you do, if you capture them, if they escape, if you kill them. And this is where you return to. The inn is surprisingly cozy considering the bitter cold outside. The fire is warm, the stew is filling, and the ale is rich. If you ignore the windows and the snow you see blowing past them, you could imagine you were in Stormwind or Orgrimmar or some other civilized land. All that is shattered when the door flies open and a man rushes in. He's wearing only a heavy cloak against the cold, and his hair and beard are frozen clumps around his face. But he seems oblivious to that. In fact, the way his eyes are bulging and his face is turning red, you guess he doesn't even realize it's snowing. "Troll!" he shouts with that one word, the inn falls silent. You can hear the wind gusting past outside through the still open door behind him. "Troll!" he gasps again, leaning against this stool. "Not an hour from the walls." Now, maybe this actually goes with the next quest, which is called Troll Meat. I think so. That must go with this. It doesn't make sense to be part of the conclusion. So this starts in Valgard and makes its way up into Zuldrak, passing through the Grizzly Hills and Grizzlemall, Thormodon, and Gundrak itself. So it says Troll Meat is a 13th level adventure, best suited for some, it looks like everybody basically can join in. It gives some background about where the Lich King and what he has done in this land, the Scourge presence, and the Drakari presence. And essentially what will happen is a powerful Lich has appeared and is trying to help the Lich King consolidate. And he subverts some trolls and basically enlists him in the Cult of the Damned, sort of a precursor to how Zuldrak will become. So we start fighting and encountering undead Drakari trolls. The ice troll, so we get some description of the ice trolls. We learn some stats or some information given to the heroes, where they've arrived, what kinds of things Valgard is being subjected to, its problems, the major threats, maybe some information about the Drakari trolls. So when you finally encounter this sort of undead troll, this is what you would see. As you step toward the troll, raising your blades, the troll grins at you, lips pulling back from long fangs. One hand closes on the massive axe at his side, and the other grasps a javelin in the sheath on his upper leg, but he does not look concerned. "Nice meeting you all," he drawls in common, still grinning. "Always good to meet new folk, find new friends. Why don't you meet some of mine?" A rustling pulls your attention to the side where a snow-covered tree branch is bending down and in. Then a figure slides past it, entering the clearing and gliding up beside the troll. This newcomer is not as tall or as broad, but still has a mighty build beneath his snow-covered armor. In one hand he carries a long sword, and on the other arm a shield, the symbols scraped away. Then he raises his head and you see his face behind the helm, graying skin, blank milky eyes, slack jaw. He is undead. And as other trees rustle nearby, you realize he's not alone. So this troll sighting is an encounter where you'll basically see a savage troll that is undead. Here are some more flavored text after that. After several hours, you come across a campsite. The tracks stop here near the remains of a massive campfire. 2 boulders have been rolled close to it. A small hunk of meat sits near one boulder, not far from a roughly hewn wooden cup. Another set of tracks leads away farther north and west, and deep furrows flank these prints. You top a small rise and pause. Down below you see a massive gray rock sliding along the ground. After a moment you realize you're looking at a rough sled skimming across the thick snow. It has no horses or oxen, but now you make out a tall, burly figure at the front and can just see thick beams set upon his shoulders. He is dragging the sled. The next part's called backtracking. Okay, so once they've dispatched, I guess you're going to have to go back to Valgard and sort of report what you have found. Maybe that's the weird troll, the Drakari warrior that you found, and you can do some talking and stuff, and where they will give you another the next step called follow my lead. So at this point, you're gonna have to possibly follow this troll, figure out what's the relation between it and the undead. And then as you're following his trail up to the north, taking you through the Grizzly Hills, you can encounter the various things. There's one called Wagon Ho, which is that where he's dragging the sled and fighting that. There's one called Prolonged Pursuit. So you can catch him and confiscate the tainted meat. If you can do so, you would end the adventure, because he's basically trying to bring that meat, I think, in the same way that the grain tainted the people, the humans. So if you could somehow cut that off, the adventure would be over. There's one called Hidden Escort. If he gets far enough away, he basically has people with him. So you could fight, you can get a fight against him and 12 Scourge warriors. There's a further one called Crossfire. So he has a brother that hates him, and basically he will be attacking that troll with the sled, and you can kind of come in the middle of this battle. There's another one called Friendly Furbolgs. This, now we're going through Grizzly Hills, so we're going to encounter the Furbolgs, and you can actually get some help where you could talk them into sending out some Furbolgs to help hunt them down. Another one is called Stout Aid, where as you're going further up, right between Grizzlemaw and Gundrak, you can find some of those dwarves that are up there in Baal Madan. But they are researchers, not warrior, but they can feed you some knowledge. And then as you get near to Drak'Thuron Keep, there are a squad of 16 undead warriors in the nearby Scourge mission that you could fight. Eventually, he will reach Gundrak. At that point, you no longer can ambush him, and you would be having a giant walled city. So if he gets to Gundrak, it's basically mission over. There's no way you're going to storm the entire city with just a small team. So if you can capture him and get the meat, you basically are going to win, and which could lead to further adventures with the Lich King or that Lich fighting back. If they kill him, but they don't confiscate the meat makes its way or whatever, it gets there another way. The troll, there will be further missions, I guess, with the Scourge. But this is kind of neat, because this mission is kind of giving us an idea of how did this taint come, because at some point we have to get from the conception of Zuldrak that we have talked about here to the completely overrun undead troll zone that we know. And this adventure is kind of a backstory for how that could go down. And what's neat is it's a backstory of your own making as a Dungeons and Dragons player. All right, so that's cool. We have this one wrapped up, that whole chapter, because none of that was from Brand's perspective, but I think we'll jump back over and we'll be talking about different organizations in the next chapter. It's going to be probably one of the last chapters, if not the last chapter, and we'll be reading that one slowly as we begin with the different organizations. Hey, thanks everybody for watching, for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. I did. I'll see you next time on Lore of Warcraft.